the Florida Gators getting it done over Tennessee. That was a game that once it turned on, I was like, Florida's winning this football game.
Well, you were talking about it all week.
Swamp.
I mean, we're sitting in the office and this man's just chirping over my shoulder like, hey, Florida's going to win this weekend. Make a graphic. Hey, Florida's going to win this weekend. Tennessee's on upset alert. And I was just like, dude, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yep.
But what was the stat? Was it Tennessee has only won 2 of the last 18 in the?
Yeah, because Florida's 16-2 versus Tennessee
in the swamp,
or not necessarily in the swamp, but all time since
really?
2003.
Wow.
And then in the swamp they're 0-9. Now 0-10.
Wow.
So I put up a comment on the Twitter, and if you're not following the socials, what are you doing?
Yes.
What are you doing? Follow the socials.
I mean, we're on that 24/7 throwing up stuff, and we love to, hear you guys' responses, especially we've been getting comments, a little bit of negativity out there too. It's like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Those are the ones that hype me up, though.
Yeah. We love those. So, I mean, keep firing at us. It just motivates us to, put out better content, because if you're going to tell us we got shit content, and we're just going to listen to you and we're going to make it better. So we appreciate those comments.
That makes me want to get in the studio more.
Yeah, exactly. So we appreciate that. And we want to see more of you guys there.
But yeah. Anyway, we went down Tennessee went down to the swamp, and it was one of those special nights in the swamp.
It was an electric one.
You could feel it. And I put something on Big Game Boomer's post. He puts up his weekly picks, and shout out to him. He does 40 games. Yeah. He goes through all.
Oh my gosh, dude. The content he puts out, it's great.
But yeah, he put out his graphic, and he had Tennessee over Florida. And I put out a little response to that. And I said, Florida gets the marquee win over Tennessee. So it is live. Check the Twitter. It's on the Twitter. Yeah. Florida went out, got it done against Tennessee.
Yeah, great prediction. And it really was a marquee win for Billy Napier. I know we kind of talked about this last week. It was kind of referencing back to the Florida doc where Urban Meyer was like, hey, he had lost, I think he lost a game, and then he gets booed walking into a bar or something. Yeah. And you got to feel there's a lot of pressure on Billy Napier to be able to get that marquee win, because last year was Utah. This year lost to Utah. They were kind of waiting for that big one to, gain the trust of that fan base again. And he was able to get it done against it was a top 11 Tennessee, I believe. Yeah. Top 11 Tennessee. So, I mean, a lot of momentum and a lot of faith in that team, moving forward, going into conference play, or I guess that was a conference opponent, but going into real conference play, starting week 4.
Yeah. And I think that's the game we'll start with. We'll keep it here. Florida getting the job done against Tennessee in the swamp. It was basically, the game went almost as I predicted it was going to go. I was talking about, if Florida gets up early, it could be really, really difficult for Tennessee to come back. Joe Milton hasn't really been in an environment like that. And it showed. The first drive, though, I thought I was getting a little worried there. Tennessee gets the ball. They go right down the field. They score. They make it 7-0. And I was like, this is going to be the most important drive of the game for Florida.
How do they respond?
They got to get points. They go down, they get points. And I was like, all right, we're here. Because the field goal attempt on the first drive. Yeah. That was terrible. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think it made it into the end zone. Yeah. It might have bounced into the end zone. But and then Florida built up that lead. The swamp was going. And I was like, yep, it's going to be a long afternoon for Tennessee.
Especially, we know we went to the swamp last year for the Utah game, and we know how electric that place can be and how tough it can be to, get a road victory there. Do you think it was you think Tennessee was a little bit overranked, and they were kind of ranked based off of their success last year? I know that they lost a lot of key players. And so do you think that ranking was, based off of their performance last year, and this team is much different?
Absolutely. It's easy to do that. When you got a team that has a great season last year, it's easy to look into the next season and be like, okay, they're going to be good again. But they were definitely overranked. I think the number one thing we learned is Joe Milton is not Hendon Hooker. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Hendon Hooker, he needs a little bit more respect. Yeah. He really single-handedly turned around that program. Yeah.
And put together, a phenomenal season.
Yeah. And, it looked like Josh Heupel kind of didn't really know how to adjust. He didn't really know how to get his team going. They found a little bit of a spark towards the end, but just a little bit too late. Wasn't going to happen for him. But I think you're right. I think Tennessee was a little bit overranked because of where they are, and I think that's why it was it was kind of a pick that I was comfortable making. It's because I just didn't really see the Tennessee hype, and Florida really proved it. And with that being said, I don't really see the Florida hype with them jumping in the rankings.
Yeah, they entered at 25. Right?
25. But I think they might be a little bit, overranked. I don't think they're worthy of being ranked.
I was just about to ask that. Do you think that Florida is now potential contenders for the SEC?
I don't think so. I think they still got some things to work out because, the thing that Tennessee wasn't able to stop was the run.
Yeah.
Those two dogs, Montreal Johnson and Trevor Etienne, they got loose and they ran for 1 billion yards.
Yeah.
So if you can really shut down Florida's run game and make them one-dimensional and make Graham Mertz pass the ball, it's gonna be a long day for those Florida Gators.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for the Gators. And that's because we kind of touched on the SEC. They're in a bit of a weird situation. There was kind of a scenario that we're breaking down where it's like the SEC could be down to only one contender and maybe potentially no contenders for the playoff. And if you want to kind of explain your breakdown on that.
Yeah, look at it this way. Look at all the teams that right now have the most potential to make the playoff. You got Alabama, you got LSU, and you had Tennessee, and then like Georgia, obviously. Those are probably the four main teams. Ole Miss is kind of in there. We'll talk about Ole Miss a little bit here in a second. But Tennessee's got a loss, Alabama's got a loss, and LSU has a loss. LSU and Alabama have to play each other. Tennessee's got to play Georgia. So it's like, people are good at math. They can do the simple math. Yeah. Some of those teams are going to get a second loss almost guaranteed in the season, and that's with them being perfect everywhere else. Kind of where Ole Miss comes in this scenario. They got Alabama this week. Is that going to be a second loss for Alabama? Or is that going to be a first loss for Ole Miss?
Could be a potential elimination game for Alabama from the playoff.
Yeah, so it's the SEC's in a situation where they haven't been in a while. Usually a lot of their top teams, or at least the top three, is all undefeated. They're probably four out of their top five all have losses. Maybe I guess 3 out of their top 5, but Ole Miss or Alabama will have a loss depending on the outcome of that game this week. So the SEC's in a situation where if Georgia loses maybe to Tennessee later on in the season, and Tennessee's a 2-loss team, there's a scenario where the SEC doesn't make a team in the playoff.
Yeah, with how competitive and how much parity there is in the league. That's kind of something I've been thinking about is, normally there's a clear division between, say, the top 2 teams in the SEC or even the top 4, top 5 teams in the country. But I feel like you look down the list, there is probably a dozen teams that I feel like could go out there and win it this year.
I mean, South Carolina went into Georgia and was up at halftime 14-3.
And Florida State didn't look too great. They finished a close one to who was it?
Boston College.
Mm-hmm. And then Texas goes out there and they're almost tied at halftime against Wyoming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy year, and I feel like it's good for the sport, It's good it's cool to have these dominating schools, these huge dynasties going out there winning every year. But it's more entertaining, in my opinion, to go see, 12 potential fan bases, teams that could, go out there and win it all this year.
And I think the only team that's really looked for the most part pretty good is Michigan, but JJ McCarthy was throwing some picks.
Oh my gosh. He threw 3 picks this week.
Yeah. Against Bowling Green.
Yeah. So
even then you can't really say Michigan was perfect, but that kind of just goes back into the fact that, we talked about this was going to be a week, slate of college football games.
Yeah.
There's never a week slate of college football games.
No.